Hey guys, I'm Mike, and this is my quick reference guide for all of the blending modes in Photoshop and Manga Studio. We are doing the overlay mode in this video. It combines one of my favorite tools, the multiply mode, with one of my least favorite tools, screen mode, but I have to say that out of all the blending modes, I find overlay to be the most useful. It's one of the main things I use for correcting rendering and color at the same time on digital paintings. So the way I have this set up is on the bottom we have a scan of this colored pencil and ink drawing. There's a little bit of paint in here too of Jim Carrey. And over the top we have overlay, and I can make huge wholesale changes to the rendering in this and the coloring in this and make it look fantastic in seconds. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So as far as a brush, I'm using just this textured spray paint brush. It's an airbrush, but it's a little bit fussier, I guess. I call it my punk rock poster ink brush. I don't know what else to call it. So if I wanted to make the lighting a lot more dramatic on this piece, the way overlay works. Actually, I'm not even totally sure if they give you a precise value. So overlay, given at certain values, at darker values, it behaves as if you were using multiply, which is a shading tool typically. And at higher values, it uses screen, which basically turns the pixels virtually white or super, super, super bright. But I find that if you use texture brushes and you pepper these things back and forth, you create, it's just so good because it's so fast. As always, these overlay layers and correction layers are tools, and I prefer to just, get it right with the paint the first time and not have to mess with it. But if you're doing concept art or character design or where you're just, you need to make big changes fast, this is the way to go. It's so good because it's a calculation. So what you're doing is you're still maintaining some of the color and some of the sort of pixel relationships underneath, which is super important. Bring this just to black. Right in here, this far shoulder. So here, the ink scanned really white right here. So if we wanted to, I'm going to bring down the brush density a whole bunch. I'm going to go to kind of a pink color, and then you can just keep working these. Just keep going. See when the values I think are above 50%, it works as screen, and then when they're below, it works as multiply. Just kind of gradually drifting in color back and forth. And I mean, this is dramatically different from the beginning piece. Dramatically different. And that was what? A couple minutes? 2-3 minutes? So I find screen has super limited uses if I'm just bouncing, if I'm using it as a layer by itself. But when combined with sparse, very not dense. Look, if you use any kind of density whatsoever, let's just get like a regular old, like a flat brush. So a flat brush is just like this. If you use this thing in screen mode at full opacity, like, you get a very, like, this is not super useful for a lifelike piece. It might be, it's super useful for effects or some kind of intense photo manipulation, or, I mean, there's certainly, it's not that it's not useful, it's just not for your average rendering without there being an explosion. These are, or some type of magic going on. These are not values that you're not going to see pinned values either in, like, all the way, values like this. And this is where you're going to live if you use screen mode. But if you spread out those pixels, you can work them back and forth with an overlay layer or with the overlay mode, and you can just create really interesting, huge changes. I mean, look at how that's a dramatic shift. And I'm not saying it's better or worse, but we just changed the image. And because this is a scan, this is a little washed out. Like, these colors are much darker when you see the piece in person. But yeah. So especially if you're trying to turn, I turn some of my traditional art like this into prints. And sometimes, what works in person doesn't necessarily work digitally. Every comic book you've ever seen, even if you go see the original art, this is like Comic-Con season, like, the original art looks awesome in person, but if you compare it to what's in the book, like, it's been heavily modified. India ink isn't really black, not in most places. So, you need to learn how to, even if you're a traditional artist, you need to learn how to modify your stuff and make it presentable for the medium. So that's overlay. That's how I use overlay. I love it. It's one of my favorite modes. I hope that I've helped you find some use for it, because it's, to my knowledge, not a lot of people use it the way that I use it. So hopefully that helps you. Please see my channel for little 5-minute tutorials on every single blending mode in Manga Studio and Photoshop. All of these are covered, and with the same type of explanation plus demonstration. Okay? Thanks a lot. Like, subscribe, and leave a comment below if I did something confusing in the video that you want me to explain, or if you want me to, if you have some suggestion for something that you'd like me to make a video on. So for the actual calculations of multiply and screen and how those values are combined, just see those separate videos. But overlay is a combination of the two. All right, thanks for watching.